Hey everyone, my name is Sean Cecil from the Oculus Institute, and today I'm going to teach you about radical responsibility. Okay, so I opened the video with the term radical responsibility. And, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but in the personal development space, there's a trend of putting radical in front of a bunch of other words to kind of like bring it to the next level, right? So people talk about radical forgiveness or radical honesty or radical whatever. One that I've not seen is radical responsibility. Not to say it's not out there, I don't know, but it is something that I do want to talk about. It's similar to the concept expressed by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin called extreme ownership. So radical responsibility is going to be very similar to that principle, but it's not exactly the same thing, because extreme ownership really, is about how you interact in a business setting and with employees and with all this other stuff. Whereas radical responsibility is something that I want to make clear is really focused on you. I've come across several people recently in various comment threads and various discussions, and we start talking about what's your biggest frustration and what do you want to do, what do you want to create in your career and all this other kinds of stuff. And the first thing that they'll go to is, oh, well, this other person is causing me pain, this other person is doing this, and I just want them to stop. And the problem with that is that other people's actions aren't within your control. So there was a philosopher named Epictetus back in ancient Greece, and he was a slave, so he didn't have a lot of control over much of anything. And he came up with this concept called the dichotomy of control. Like, there are things that you can control, and there are things that you cannot control, right? And if you focus on trying to control things that you can't control, it's a recipe for pain, right? So radical responsibility is the principle that you can always control something, right? And that is true, right? If you look at the dichotomy of control, there are always things that you can control. You can control how you react. You can control whether or not you train your mind and your emotions to respond in certain ways, or whether you train them to be more well-behaved, right? These are all things that are within your control. And so if somebody else is taking certain actions, you can choose how you react to those actions, right? You can't stop the other person from doing what they're doing, but you can choose how you allow yourself to think and feel about it, and what you choose to do in response, right? So radical responsibility is the difference between saying, hey, I'm going to blame that other person and sit here and get on a comment thread and rant and rave, and maybe it's not just some other person, maybe it's this grand conspiracy which may or may not actually be there, we don't know, right, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe it's this other political party, maybe it's your parents, and saying, oh, well, I'm just screwed up because of what my parents did. And even if they did something screwed up, that doesn't mean that, you for the rest of your life have to follow in that path. You can always shift your path, right? And so all that stuff there is a violation of radical responsibility. All of that stuff is giving the locus of control outside of you and saying, hey, I can't do anything, right? Radical responsibility acknowledges all of the factors that may exist externally. It doesn't deny that they're there, but it shifts the focus from this is what's happening to this is what I'm going to do about it, right? And that means that you either change how you think and feel, or you change the situation. And one way you can always change the situation is you can leave, right? So I've seen many people who they're like, oh, well, my job's horrible, my boss is horrible, and this and that, and all these other things, but then they won't quit. they won't even go try to apply for another job that would allow them to quit, right? Because they're focused on all of this stuff, and they're burning up all their energy in this resentment instead of what can I do to change the situation, right? And so that's the difference, right? Somebody who embraces radical responsibility is going to say, hey, this is a toxic situation, true, and I'm not going to allow myself to be in a toxic situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go send out 10 job applications and get another job, and I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to tell that person to buzz off so that I can live a happy life, right? That's radical responsibility. And that's the difference between, wallowing in misery and actually making progress. So I encourage you guys, embrace radical responsibility and take a real good, honest look at your life and see, where are you living in this victimhood mentality and where are you living in radical responsibility? Before you go, I've got a free gift for you. So if you found this video valuable, if it helped you see the world in a new way, and you're interested in building a career that's going to bring you both personal fulfillment and financial prosperity, then I've got a free presentation for you to help you do just that. So if you go to the link below, it's www.oculusinstitute.com/workshop. That's www.oculusinstitute.com/workshop. then it'll take you to a registration for a free presentation. It's about 50 minutes long, that's 50, and it's gonna give you the step-by-step process to building your dream career. See you there.